Coming up next on Functional Moms Podcast.
Bad bacteria give off toxins that affect your mood, your cravings. So that's where the cravings come in, where you're like, why am I eating sugar? Why am I gaining weight? Or I'm eating the same thing, but I'm gaining the weight because your estrogen is dropping, your bacteria are changing, and you're digesting or not digesting food as you used to. Your liver is important to filter out all the hormones that your body uses and you don't need anymore. If you're not regular, if you're not going every day to the bathroom, you are not actually metabolizing estrogen correctly or any of those hormones that you need to come as waste out of your body. So that's the other thing. Your liver needs to be in good working order.
Welcome to Functional Moms Podcast, lifestyle medicine for women over 40. Let's age on our own terms. Today, we're going to be learning how gut health impacts perimenopause. If you suffer from bloating, low energy, aches and pains, or just feeling old, this episode is for you.
Mirna Sierra is a functional medicine certified health coach and digestive health specialist dedicated to helping busy moms navigate perimenopause and improve their digestion with real food without overwhelming restrictive diets.
With a background in health administration, Mirna spent over a decade leading teams in cardiology, gastroenterology, dermatology, and cosmetic surgery in Beverly Hills and Shanghai, China, where she lived for 3 amazing years.
Mirna is a mom of 2 boys and understands firsthand the challenges of balancing health with a busy life. However, after facing her own health struggles, Mirna learned that prioritizing health isn't just for yourself, it's essential for your family too.
Mirna, thank you so much for joining us today. We would love to start by asking you about your personal health struggles and how that led you to becoming a health coach.
Hi, you guys, I'm so happy to be here, first of all, and I'm so honored because fellow FMCA graduates, thank you for having me. So yes, I've been in the health and wellness space since 2016, where after my husband had gallbladder removal back in 2012, he started to have issues like 5 years after the surgery. He was getting like jaundice and just like going to the bathroom right after every meal. Like we started noticing all these symptoms. So I started digging and found that basically they don't tell you when you have gallbladder removal that you're going to need external bile, basically. So what they do is they put this ox bile in capsules that you can buy because now you don't have this sac that's holding the bile. And so the bile is just kind of dripping into your system and it's going to make you sick eventually. So that's what was happening to him. He was getting, it was crazy. So it's this whole complicated, digestive system, but they take away the gallbladder. You need that. They tell you, oh, you don't need it. It's fine. But you do. So he was sick 5 years after that. We found out how to fix it. And then I was just enthralled. I'm like, the gut is everything. So I just started to go down that rabbit hole, got my first certification with ITN. And then FMCA didn't exist yet. Functional medicine was kind of in my realm and was kind of coming about. And so that's how I went down the gut health rabbit hole. And so we fixed our diets. Everything was just wonderful. We tried to tell everybody around us about it. We were the obnoxious, you gotta eat better for your gut health kind of thing. And my husband is like a total evangelist about it, he'll tell you. And he says, I feel like if you never help anyone else, you helped me. And that was like, that's all you need to do, just impact one person. And I was like, oh my God, that's so nice of him. Like he's been so supportive ever since. And so that's how I went down that rabbit hole of gut health. A few years later, well, actually 2016, I started to notice changes in myself, even though I'm doing all the things. I'm thinking like, why am I feeling so tired? 1 year later, I call it the Geneva incident where we were in a Geneva airport and I felt like my body fell out of me, like my uterus came out. I was like, it was my cycle becoming extremely just like crime scene, right? I'm in an airport. And so I'm like looking for clothing. I'm trying to like buy clothes because it's that bad. Yes. And from there on, as soon as I got back home, I made an appointment, started talking to doctors. The doctor that delivered my baby said, the only thing is to do a hysterectomy. Like, there's nothing else I can do. There's fibroids in there. There's probably adenomyosis, which is like one step above endometriosis, which is pretty bad. So I had all this injury to my uterus with my first pregnancy. So that was like, I thought that was it. You think, okay, that's it. Then, of course, with all the blood loss every month, you start getting anemia. The weight started to creep up. And I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with that? And then the mood, the rage. I don't know if people talk about this a lot. A lot of women don't talk about the rage. All the things that you start to be like, everything bugs me. What's wrong? I love my husband. I love my kids. But why do I have so much rage? And so all those things started to, kind of go on top of each other. And these things are retrospective. You really don't notice what's going on in your body until now. Then you say, oh, it's perimenopause. But at the time, all the doctors, and I'm talking about 3 or 4 different OBGYNs, I can go back to my record and see when I started telling them about my weight. So everything's documented in the system. And I'm like, wow, all they could say was, yeah, your blood work is fine. You're just anemic. You're a little bit anemic, and that's why you're tired. But yeah, I started to notice the hair loss, just everything, until finally we moved to this area, Raquel, and I saw a wonderful doctor in the area, and he said, well, somebody could have helped you. They could have done like an ablation, or you could have done something in them, but nobody ever talked to me about ablations or anything like that for to stop the bleeding. They could have given you hormones. They could have done so many things for you. I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. But now it seems like the only thing would be a hysterectomy. So I thought about that. And when he said hormones, I was like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. No, because I think that our generation is a little bit injured with the birth control pill and everything. You think of hormones and you're like, no, I don't want it. No.
Mhm.
So I was like so closed off to that. This was just January of last year. And then I just started to do more research and all that. And I'm thinking like, okay, but I've been doing all the things correctly. Why is this happening? And start to see that the cluster of symptoms are due to perimenopause. And I think what saved me, because basically, yes, it was two things combined. I didn't know that it was perimenopause and also a lot of stress, aging parents, the children, all the things. You don't know what's really making you go through that. You just feel like you're going crazy. You feel alone. And with all my knowledge of gut health, I was like, well, what can I do? What are the things that are important in this situation? How can I apply my knowledge to this? Because obviously I've lost myself in the woe is me. I'm so tired. I'm mad. I'm trying to figure it out. What can I do? What do I know? How can I apply what I already know? Oh my God. You come to find out that our gut microbiome, as soon as we hit 40 or around that age, it changes. It starts to become more like that of a man's microbiome, which is less diverse. And so when we have less diversity, then we start to have all the bloating, the weight. It helps, it aids all those things. It doesn't cause anything because it's perimenopause, basically, it's doing the damage. But having an imbalanced gut microbiome really doesn't help. So you start to, everything you eat makes you bloated. You start to gain the weight in different places because of the loss of estrogen, because even the microbiome is affected by the loss of estrogen. So that is the direct connection, basically, in a nutshell. It's estrogen does bear any organ in your body. It's going to affect your brain, your heart, your stomach, your digestive system, everything. So when you start to lose estrogen, your microbiome starts becoming less diverse. If you're not eating a good diet, then you're going to be feeding or promoting the bad bacteria, which in turn will give off toxins that affect your mood, your weight. So everything is connected and started with the microbiome. So I thought, oh my God, all this time I've been sitting on the answer to help those symptoms, not that it's going to replace estrogen, because that's another thing that I would like to address a bit later. Is about how we cannot get hung up on that food and exercise are going to fix everything. Sometimes we do have to look outside and find, maybe a pharmaceutical is going to help you. In this case, and we talk about HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and what it is and all the confusion around that, right? And how can we incorporate all those pieces foundationally? Diet, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction and all that stuff that is the foundation. But what else can we do on top of that? So
Right.
the gut is
And so I have to ask you, so how did you find this? So you found a doctor that was near you that understood more of this, that said that you could have done some things earlier to help your health?
yeah, that in relation to my symptoms regarding like all the heavy bleeding and all the things, because I had fibroids and all those things. So my fatigue and my hair was falling out. And when he did blood tests, he said, how do you even get out of bed? Your numbers are so low. You're so severely anemic. And that alone, you should be like bedridden. It's crazy, your number.
What numbers were low?
My hemoglobin, it was like an 7 or 8, which is
What should it
it should have been at least a 13, 15 in order for you to function, like for you to have like cognitive abilities and get up and keep your hair. Your ferritin has to be at least 60 to 75. My
Mm.
ferritin was like in the 20s. It
Wow.
was just now kind of getting everything back.
And that was due to the heavy periods? Is that
That was to the heavy bleeding because I was bleeding about 2 to 3 weeks out of the month toward the end.
wow.
And nothing could have really helped that, like, by the time he discovered that, because my fibroids were too enlarged and just the damage to the uterus was too much to where an ablation, which basically it's like a laser, they insert something into and then it's like a laser, but it has to be like a smooth area. When you have
Okay.
fibroids, you have lots of growth, and so it's not gonna do any good. But if they had told me about those choices, like in New York City, where it's like the mecca of it's the number one hospital, Mount Sinai,
Yeah.
none of those doctors could help. None of them
Wow.
offered me any
Wow.
reprieve. help, nothing. I'm like, I was so angry at that because I'm like, you
Yeah.
see, do you see? But and then it kind of fuels fire to like, you see, functional medicine, this and that. I'm thinking like, why can't we be both? Why can't we like rely on our medical
Yeah.
system? And really, if you don't educate yourself,
Like, that's what I'm gathering from your story. It's like if
yeah,
you're not your own advocate, you're just gonna get lost in the shuffle and your health is really gonna suffer.
So it was basically like the experience that you had with your husband and digging in to help him, and then that happened to you, and so that's basically what led you down the path because path felt led from all that.
my passion for gut health led me to like now I'm like, okay, there's all these pieces and the research is showing that, which is amazing. And it's where if your gut health is suffering because your gut microbiome is like your second brain, some would argue your first brain, you really what you feed it is absolutely driving a lot of the symptoms or at least can help reduce some of the symptoms. Because again, I think that nothing will replace estrogen except estrogen.
So is it that, like, at that time you were going through perimenopause and gut health issues simultaneously?
I don't think I was suffering from I mean, I started to see the bloating coming back, and I thought, what's wrong? I'm doing everything I know what to do. I'm taking the right strain of probiotics for me and all those. So
Right,
when I start to see those symptoms like creep up again and my hair loss and all the things that I didn't know was perimenopause, that
right.
had to do a lot with my monthly cycle, but compounded with a lot of those things. And you don't know, sometimes there's a multiple layers of what's going on. There's no exact, thing that's going to tell you this is where you are. Although for perimenopause, what I've learned is that any changes in your period, in your monthly cycle. So for me, that was the key. The Geneva incident was the key where it's like,
Sure.
that was huge. From there on, it was never the same, where I had been very regular. Number two is the mood. If you're like this and you just kind of get set off by anything, perimenopause. And then the sleeplessness, like if you wake up in the middle of the night, that's another dead giveaway. So those three things, any woman, I'm like, are you having this and that? This is consider that this is it. Talk to your doctor.
And did any of your doctors say that you were in perimenopause?
Not ever. This like word that everybody's using, perimenopause, that
Yeah,
didn't exist. And it's like, well, it's the period around menopause. Like, why hasn't anyone in the medical field put together that there's a cluster of symptoms that come right before the age of 50 or the 10 years before 50? And we start preparing women like, hey, this is going to happen and you're going to feel this. Your blood work might look normal, but you're going to feel crappy. And what you can do is here's the health coach. And let me set you up with the health coach. God, in an ideal world, let me set you up with a health coach who's going to help you clean up your diet, talk to you about any key supplements and exercise program, right? Like all the things that could be better done. And it doesn't require a ton of time, but that's where we are.
sure.
I guess my question would be like, as a digestive health specialist, right? Like connecting the perimenopause, why does gut health matter during perimenopause?
Got it. Well, because again, no organ spared during perimenopause where your estrogen is declining.
Mhm.
When your estrogen goes, so many things go. So one of the things is the estrobolome, which is basically the microbiome and its connection to estrogen. There's like actually a special word for it. It's called the estrobolome. And so that's the connection of the gut microbiome and estrogen and the receptors. And so when that goes down, then you start to get a diversity in bacteria, which starts to become more like a man, like I explained earlier. So then you have less diverse bacteria. And we're women, we need diversity in our gut microbiome. And so when we start to look more like a man, then we start to get the bloating and all that because we start to get the wrong kind of bacteria. Or again, if you're not eating the right diet for you, you start to develop more bad gut bacteria than good. And whatever that gives off, bad bacteria give off toxins that affect your mood, your cravings. So that's where the cravings come in, where you're like, why am I eating sugar? Why am I gaining weight? Or I'm eating the same thing, but I'm gaining the weight. It's because your estrogen is dropping, your bacteria are changing, and you're digesting or not digesting food as you used to. Your liver is important to filter out all the hormones that your body uses and you don't need anymore. If you're not regular, if you're not going every day to the bathroom, you are not actually metabolizing estrogen correctly or any of those hormones that you need to come as waste out of your body. So that's the other thing. Your liver needs to be in good working order. Your pancreas, you need to be making sure you're eating the fiber so that you can get things going. And because that's the other thing, the number one question is, are you going every day? And a lot of women are like, no, that's the first thing. I'm constipated, and yeah, Yes, because again, if you're when your estrogen is low, motility slows down as well. So
Mhm.
everything that has to do with the loss of estrogen, you're going to have pain, loss of motility or mobility, and that's throughout the body, right? What do women complain about? Joint pain, constipation, and it's all got to do with connected to your receptors.
Right.
Estrogen is like
Wow.
it's like lube inside our body. It's like what makes everything go.
So if you're suffering from all that and like from poor digestion during perimenopause, what kind of diet is the best?
The best is the high fiber, high protein, obviously, but high fiber is very important. I mean, I always say to perimenopausal women, eat your protein. Also, the fiber is super important because that's what gets things
Yeah.
moving, the soluble and insoluble.
Yeah, we've been hearing that a lot, and now
Yeah.
so now what I do is when I'm gonna go eat, I or go food shopping, I say, "Hey Siri, what are the top fiber?" Oh look, CB's going on my phone,
So
ready to answer me.
that's smart.
Yeah,
That's
no, that's really
smart.
smart because I think that's a huge problem. When you start to really focus on your protein, the fiber can go out the window easily.
And then you just get constipated if you eat too much
Yeah,
protein
and you're constipated.
and not enough.
Now, I will share my personal I've had gut issues going a long way back since my
Okay.
20s, and functional medicine has helped me amazing. Like I was one of those people that was going to the gastroenterologist and they're just like, "You're normal, nothing's wrong." And meanwhile, I was always constipated and having issues and they wanted me on Miralax or eating fiber 1, which would make it like so much worse. But now in my 40s, I'm noticing that my gut health is struggling more and I'm having more issues with constipation again. And I know I did some testing with my functional doctor. And yes, like my diversity of the microbiome is low. Like I have, so you're the first person that I'm connecting that as my estrogen's going down, that this could be affecting me because, and that makes a lot of sense because that's
Yeah.
exactly like what I've been seeing like in myself.
It's one of the things it's the first thing that women complain about, the bloating. I'm eating the same diet as I used to.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything different. Yes, that's because now you have less diversity and now you're just getting bloated with anything you eat. So that's the thing. And so there are, great probiotics out there for that, but also just, yeah, if you have to look at your sensitivities as well. Like you can't tolerate gluten anymore as much, or you can't
Mhm.
tolerate certain things. I don't say go gluten free or anything to anyone unless they really feel or they know that that's causing the issue. Because sometimes it's not. But sugar, you can say across the board is the one thing that we have to really want the added sugar. So I'm not talking about fruit. Fruit is amazing. Eat as much fruit as you want. It's about the added sugars which come in the box stuff, right? Just the cookies, crackers, all the things that we crave
Carbs.
because it's a vicious cycle.
So that's the other thing. I'm noticing I'm having more cravings than I used to. Like, and I don't know if that's the hormones swinging or what, but like I definitely feel like I have more cravings now at age 48 than I did even like 5 years ago.
And it's again, it's a diversity because now whatever you have going on, perimenopause with your declining estrogen, it's like, okay, let's promote maybe the bad bacteria a little bit more. And those guys, they require their own special line of sugar to keep thriving. And that's what they have a brain. It's we're made of cells. So these bacteria pretty much control everything that's going on down there. And they're telling you, we need more of this. So that's what keeps you in that cycle where unless you cut it, and then, and you can change your gut microbiome in 3 days. I mean, like if you listen to Dr. Mark Hyman, he says in 3 days, you can totally revamp your gut microbiome because it thrives on whatever you are feeding it. So, you're eating a diet of McDonald's, it's going to thrive on McDonald's and proliferate those bacteria. Once you change that diet, you're going to see the bloating and all this stuff because your bacteria are like, hey, where's my food? Where's the stuff I love? So any diet change is going to give you some bloating because it's the bacteria fighting back, saying, I want more of the other stuff. I like the other thing. We had a balance. We had a deal.
Mhm.
So you have to weigh it out basically, is that what you're saying? Like, so then you just go through that transitional moment and you just
Yeah.
right?
You can do an elimination diet, the elimination gut health. I would just say look for a good probiotic. Supplements, I mean, supplements as far as what I think is necessary because I like bare bones. I don't love all the fluff around all the supplements because I don't really, that's not my area of expertise. But, obviously your vitamin D with K2 and magnesium, tons of magnesium. That keeps things moving, right? And sleep.
Yeah, the magnesium citrate helps me a lot when I'm getting prone to the constipation.
Yeah. Anything that'll make you go and, what else? The, magnesium, I mean, if you need B vitamins, that's fine, but if you're eating a healthier diet, that's kind of water-soluble vitamins that you can get from food, and those are basically the 2, and then as far as probiotics, just look for a strain that's made for women because there are so many different strains, and the ones that are very, have research behind them right now is Akkermansia. Akkermansia is like the one that everybody's talking about, even Halle Berry, and everyone's really behind this.
That's what's in Pendulum, is that
That
the
Pendulum, I
okay.
tried Pendulum, yeah, I'm actually finishing up my order, and it's great. It's proven to
Yeah.
be, like, something that take it every night, by the morning with your magnesium, you're ready to go. So that's the goal, to keep things
Wow.
moving, that you're not bloated, that you don't go a day without going once to the bathroom and eliminating what needs to come out, and that's super important for gut health.
Yeah.
That's a great formula, especially because there are so many probiotics out there that it is overwhelming. Like, you go to the health food store and they have a refrigerator and it's packed with and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," it's just, like, overwhelming.
Well, and I have to
There's the refrigerated and non-refrigerated, you're like, "I don't know."
Right, exactly.
and, like, as someone just with longstanding gut issues, I don't tolerate a lot of them. Like, I've had a lot of issues, and that can be really frustrating because 'cause you're wasting money and you're
Yeah,
trying and you're feeling worse. So, it is tricky for people.
try that.
Yeah.
Try the Akkermansia or the pe have you tried the Pendulum?
I have not, but I have noticed, if you get a stool test, they will measure your Akkermansia on them, and you can see, and mine was low. I mean, not surprisingly. I mean, it wasn't crazy low, like, some people get a really low, but it was low.
You did that?
The stool test?
Yeah,
I've done a stool test through my doctor, yeah.
for Pendulum to do for that specific
Well, no, for that strain, for Akkermansia, that strain
I
of bacteria
oh,
specifically,
gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
It's huge for women because it's like the metabolic it drives all the metabolic functions. So it's like really if you're low on that, then that's why a lot of the things start to happen, and that's what happens. That's one of the good kind of strains that go down with your estrogen in perimenopause. So you can see how it's directly related to what kinds of strains do you have and what should I supplement with, and it's great to know, but yeah, not
Yeah.
everybody can.
We were at the functional medicine meeting last year, and Holly Berry was there with Pendulum
Yeah.
talking about it, and she's obviously a big advocate for menopause as well, getting out there.
See her yesterday on the Oprah. Yeah, it's really important to have those kind of voices, and I'm shocked that it actually hasn't reached more. It's just now that it's kind of I'm seeing her, but she's been doing this for a while.
Mhm.
So you can see how even somebody who's prominent like that is able to really shed the light on something that is affecting millions and millions of women and thousands per the day. Because like there's like 6,000 women going into menopause every day.
Every day.
It seems
Okay.
so every day
Wow.
number, and you would think that there would be more education around that, but that's just not happening fast enough.
It's funny, I had a client this morning that I was working with, and she told me, she's like, "Did you see the special that Oprah had on Monday night?" I was like, "No," and she's yeah,
It you didn't know. Yeah. Oh, so go
yeah, Maria Shriver was on it, and I forget who else was
let me watch.
I think it's Dr. Mary Claire Haver.
Mary Clay
she
Haver.
called in apparently, yeah.
And
I
she's
yeah.
there. Yeah, she was there and,
Oh, she was there.
yeah, she's become pretty big. So it's and that yeah, her book is amazing. Like that, she really does a great job of linking food and, perimenopause because she had her own program, the Galveston diet, and then she started going through menopause and then she's like, "Oh my God," like this is the connection. It's huge. It doesn't solve the issue, but it absolutely must be a foundation because again, I think what you eat is everything, right? So we think that. And when you start to connect it to, oh, why do I feel like this or why am I bloated? At least those digestive symptoms that you're going through that are one of the first ones to show up in perimenopause, because that's the first thing. You start gaining the weight, the bloating, all the things, even though you're doing the same things that you did in your 30s, now it's not working anymore. So what's different is that you really have to I think the Mediterranean diet has been proven to be the best kind of diet to be on because everybody can pretty much do a Mediterranean diet and it's healthy. Lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of reds and greens and colorful fruit and veggies, right? And also the protein aspect for us, it's huge. Recall, you're a person in the strength, business for women and you know that we need that power. Like we don't see any gains in the not like men do. Like a guy is like, yeah, I'm gonna just put 1 teaspoon of sugar instead of two in my coffee and they lose 10 pounds. And you're like, how do they do that?
Yeah, so unfair.
It's unfair. But for us, we have to watch out so much more. We have so much more work to put into our diet, but it doesn't have to be that difficult. Protein, good fats, and lots of grains and fruit.
Yeah.
And so tell us then, I know you mentioned a little bit about estrogen, right? So the estrogen's going down, but we can't make that come back. So what's your thoughts on, and I know you don't prescribe HRT or any of that, but like what are your thoughts on guiding women through that whole conversation? And
Yeah, I think it's going to be a huge part of, whatever work I do in the very, near future. For me, it's advocating or helping women to understand that there doesn't need to be two worlds. The two can coexist. You can be somebody who's into all natural, trying to treat symptoms in an all natural way. And also we need to understand hormone replacement therapy in the modern day and age because it's been given such a bad rap, right, for the last
Mhm.
25 years. So we need to really help women, this generation, understand that a tiny dose of something that you're losing at a very rapid range in your 40s, if you replace it with a tiny bit of that same thing in a bioidentical way, you're going to get your life back. You're literally going to, it's like the light goes back on. That was my
Yeah.
experience. So
Mhm.
I had to do a lot of the legwork on my own. Like my doctor could not go to my doctor and say, "Can I have some estradiol?" They just wouldn't do it. So every doctor that I didn't know to ask about it. We don't have the language, right? So
No.
I didn't know to ask about it until I started to follow all these doctors online. And I'm like, oh my god, okay. I didn't trust that my doctor would give it to me, so I went on a telehealth company. I
Okay.
used the telehealth and I got a cream. At the
Mhm.
time, I still had my uterus. This was last year. So it
Mhm.
was a progesterone and estrogen combination. I kid you not. Within a week, I felt like a new person. I would never say this about pharmaceuticals
Yeah.
or anything. And to me, that's when the light went on for me as well. Like this doesn't have to be either or. It can be both, especially when it comes to this balm of I don't know what it is. But I was like, this is not a medication. This is like life saving. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Wow. And so many women say that because we get a lot of comments on our posts about HRT, and people will say, it saved my life. It changed everything. And they notice a rapid change.
So for me, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 56. And wait, am I 56? No, I think I'm 57, right? I'm 57. What am I? 58?
Dude,
You're
you're
not in
58.
perimenopause.
You obviously are in menopause because you can't remember your age, but
Whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
58,
Thing
right?
number five.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Kristen, because you're 48, right?
Yeah.
Because we're 10 years apart. So I totally, just like what you were saying before, I had no idea. I was also, in my 40s, I was going through a divorce. I had 4 young kids. So a lot of the things that I was feeling and going through, I thought were just normal due to my circumstances. I did not know a lot of that. Some of my attacks or rages weren't just because I was angry, just like all the management and all the stuff. I didn't realize, but I remember that there's so many times that I felt like, I felt out of control where I would have to tell my daughter was like 12 or 13 or something, and she was the oldest. And I would just have to walk out of the house and just like walk to just I was like, holy cow, like what the heck? I got to get a grip on myself. So I thought it was just because, whatever. I thought it was just because of the circumstances. I did not know that I'm seeing now that granted, there were probably circumstantial,
Players.
uh
Players.
right. I think it was just a little stack, and then that was probably, fueling the fire as well. So now what about someone like me? Like, I'm full on menopause now. The other thing was that I stopped getting my period at a very young age in my 40s.
Mhm.
And again, I was like, wow, I just realized one day that I haven't gotten my period like in a long minute. I didn't even know because of the hustle that I was in. And then until I realized it, and then I went to my gynecologist,
Oh, it's retrospective. Mm.
and then they were like, yeah, you're probably completely done. I was like, am I not like too young for this? Like, she's like, oh, it's probably maybe you actually lost your period because of your stress level. And I was having a lot of anxiety and stuff like that at the time. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. But it never came back. And so, like, now what?
I think you're set to live your best life after that. I think as far as the research shows,
Let's go. I'm living my best life.
all the symptoms go away. Like not all the symptoms. I mean, hopefully you are not going to get like the hot flashes and all that. But some people go through it without any issues. It's kind of the
Mhm.
majority of us that do not know that these cluster of symptoms are actually that combined with that sandwich stage where we are with little children and aging parents and divorces and
Yes. Yes.
It is just such a stressful
Yeah.
time of life, so it's very
Yes.
confusing that you're having these symptoms, and I think so many women we've had other guests on talk about how they were diagnosed with depression or anxiety,
Yeah.
and really it was perimenopause that was driving it all.
Do you know how many times I look back on everything I complained about, and I thought I was a pretty healthy person, but then when I go back on my record, I'm like, "Wow, I complained about this and that on my visits." And, they write it all down, and then I'm like, "Oh, perimenopause," but it's retrospective. You cannot know when you're in that. But why? I mean, don't they have this is what I'm saying, like, why is the medical system not gathering these symptoms, studying this, right? Like, all these women are coming no, they call us whiny women or something, gyny, whiny, whatever they call us.
I've heard that, yeah.
So why aren't they collecting this cluster of symptoms and saying, "Wow, look at this. Look at these top 5. This sounds like something around menopause." So perimenopause. My
Sure.
husband's like, "How come it takes women like you guys, you're so smart, and you just what is wrong with our system? What you guys can figure it out. You have to go and search it for yourselves. Nobody can tell you like the word. Nobody told you you're perimenopause."
Yeah, that's true. And, but there's also some value in like, why did it take us so long to take matters into our own hands? Like, even female doctors, like, why weren't they on it? They were going through the shit themselves, I'm sure. Like, and so, but I think that for me, I think that part of that is because I think that women, like, I can only speak as a mother. Okay. So, any woman that didn't have kids or whatever, I'm not saying anything about you. I'm just talking about myself, my own person. From my view, when we talk about being in the sandwich, you're thinking about your aging parents. You have a husband, you have your kids, you have your household. You have so many things that I think that when you're going through perimenopause, I think like me, you just think that it's kind of normal because you're just going through, you just think it's like just the circumstances that you're in and because you're multitasking and you realize like there's jokes, like there's actual cartoons that I've seen where, a husband and wife and their family put all the kids down, they do the dinner, da da da. And the husband says, "Okay, I'm going to bed." And he gets up and he goes to bed.
Yes.
And like, "Yeah, I'm going to bed."
You're like cleaning.
And she gets up and she finishes cleaning up the kitchen, puts a load of laundry in, folds the stuff that was in the jar. Like she's doing all these things. It's interesting,
The mental load for women. The mental load
right?
definitely sends you into menopause more quickly. I think also amidst all that, imagine trying to like stay on top of your diet and get the exercise in and get the right 8 hours of sleep.
Right. Putting yourself in the equation.
It's easy to say all that and to preach and all that, but it's like putting it into action because that's actually the hard part about coaching
So
people.
hard.
We know what to do. Why aren't we doing it? Well, because life, right? Sometimes it's life. Sometimes, yes, it is. You don't have that inner motivation, but it's basically for somebody between 40 and 50, it's life and it's real. And there's really, we have to have more compassion for
Yeah.
ourselves as well. And I think our generation is the last one, thank God, or at least women our age that are going to suffer this badly through perimenopause because now there's knowledge and, we can handle things better. We can teach our daughters. I don't have daughters, but we can teach our,
Yeah.
next generation that this is what you have to do. I have a sister who's 32 this year, and it is not soon enough. I'm like sending her all the information. I'm like, read this. I know she's not going to hear me. It's going to go in one ear, not the other, because that's how I was in my 30s. But, it's actually super important to start thinking about everything right now because that what you do before you hit menopause really matters how you're going to enter it, right? How you're going to go through it.
It'll set you up, yeah.
It'll set you up.
Absolutely, set yourself up for success, right? I think also now that you're saying, like, some of the things that you just mentioned, I think that possibly the other reason that it's taken us so long to really talk about this out loud is because I think that there's a stigma for women that if you're going through menopause, that you're old.
You're old.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know
I
for
think
me,
so.
I think
every wrinkle.
that's probably the main reason.
If
Probably.
you watch Oprah's show, that's one of the big drivers of women being like, "It's taboo." My mom didn't talk to me about it because she said, "Well, you don't talk about that. That just means you're getting old." And
Yeah,
I remember when my mom turned 50, I mean, she had me when she was 19, but I was like, that feels like yesterday. And she was so young. And that's exactly when she lost her period as well, as soon as she turned 50. So she went into early, not early, but relatively early because 51 is the average. Because I had a hysterectomy, I will never know when I'm going to go into into menopause because no longer uterus. But basically, when you do have that sort of surgery, you do lessen the time that you're going to enter menopause by 4 years. So I'm probably already there because even though my ovaries are still there, when you have abdominal surgery, you cut off supply to a lot of your organs and just, it never heals the same. And so there's less blood flow into your ovaries. So already that communication is wonky between your brain and your ovaries. Imagine throwing in a surgery, then that kind of throws you into menopause earlier, even if you keep your ovaries.
Right.
I was gonna ask if you had any advice for people that have a hysterectomy because it's so common. Is there anything specific that you think would help that transition period, as far as, like, the functional medicine support?
Yes, because I tried to prepare as much as I could with, the knowledge that we have and the things that I do. But if you're already leading a life where you're taking care of your gut health, there really isn't much else. But you can, like, because you're going to have antibiotics for surgery, you have to work on rebuilding your gut microbiome
Mhm,
after. Definitely start like from, kind of from step one, where you're like, not eating so many cruciferous vegetables because you're going to get very bloated because now your gut microbiome is destroyed by all the antibiotics.
mhm,
So that's one reason why people are afraid of surgery, the anesthesia, the antibiotics, destroying your just everything, right? Because they go in like a bomb and destroy your gut
mhm.
microbiome. And so, yes, it does take a few weeks after surgery because you're just trying to survive and eat whatever you can, just get healthy to get back on track. But if you, try to stay within the means of like lots of protein and healthy fats omegas and all those things to rebuild, of course, collagen, all those things that you can add for more protein. Collagen is great for rebuilding all the fibers and just, all those things, and your lots of fruits and vegetables, obviously, to keep you moving, because if you're recovering, you're not going to move a lot in the first few days, and
Mhm.
that's going to affect your transition, your transit, your constipation. You can get a bit constipated with all the pain medication as well. So all those medications are going to come and invade your body, and you basically have to start just rebuild your gut health once you are off the antibiotics, because you shouldn't
Okay.
take the probiotics during the antibiotics.
That's such a good point, and it's amazing when you get prescribed antibiotics how
Yeah.
they really don't mention anything about you might wanna do a probiotic or you're gonna have to work on this for a while after you've been on a round of antibiotics.
Only a functional medicine doctor or a practitioner will tell you that, because the
Yeah.
mainstream will be like, we don't believe in that. Believe, like, there's so much science behind it. It's not
Mhm.
fairy tale, and that's the issue with you're always going to deal with bias, in the medical field, and what the doctor believes or not, or what. So it's up to you to really go and look for the things that are going to work for you. So again, your own advocate, can't say it enough.
Yeah.
Sure.
Kristen's always talking about that.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no,
And
the other thing that I mean, I started telling you about, how I literally patched up my own way of getting hormones, because I would say that within the last year, it's when has exploded, the whole perimenopause and prescribing hormone replacement therapy. But I literally knew nothing about it just last year in the beginning. And I started going with telehealth because my doctor wouldn't, I didn't think he would give it to me after the surgery last year. I said, okay, because I was nervous to tell him. I thought it was taboo that he wasn't giving it to me, and he would tell me, no, 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 so I would never do this. I would never give you this, because you have this thing about hormones. Like, my God, they cause cancer and all the things. So I was afraid to confess to him that I was taking estrogen, that I was
Wow.
doing an estrogen
wow.
cream. So I
Yeah.
finally said, you know what? If I don't want to keep paying out of pocket, because I was paying with our HSA, I need to tell him so I can get a prescription, because this is a cheap thing that you can do. You can get. It's covered by insurance. Okay. So I said, doctor, look, I am taking this cream, and I show it to him, and it's a compounded cream. So again, I was afraid because I know they don't like compounded pharmacies, like for these kind of things, are not FDA
Mm.
approved, blah, blah, blah. I show him, and he said, well, I can give you, after the surgery, he says, you don't need progesterone, but I'll give you a prescription for the estrogen patch. I was like, it was like my birthday. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, how crazy is that? That we have to like beg our doctors. It's almost like we have to go and say, hey, let me do this for 60 days, and then I'll come back and tell you how it goes. And if I don't like it, we'll stop, and I'll never blame you. It's not going to be your fault. It'll be my fault. But, and so they have to believe in something, or like you're
Yeah.
afraid, like a child, like to go ask for something. So advocating for yourself, like Kristen says all the time, it is important, because nobody's
It's
going to do it for you.
no, and I had, like, a friend the other day tell me that she asked her doctor about perimenopause, and the doctor was like, "Oh, that's not a thing."
That's not a thing. That's only on Instagram. Yeah.
Like,
Wow, that's impressive. Uh,
"What?" So, I mean, that's what we're dealing with out there. And so we really need to let other women know because I think a lot of people still don't know that they have to be their own advocate. They still just trust in blind faith that when they go to the doctor, they're going to get the information and the treatment they need. So,
They don't.
Myrna, so are you on the patch now?
I started with the patch and then I decided to switch to the gel, which is little tiny packets and you just apply it every day. They're great for travel. And so it's like individual packets, but it's a gel pack, same kind of thing. It's so
How's that been going?
wonderful. I mean, the some people prefer the patch because you just change it like twice a week. Others prefer the pill or, and it just depends on the mode. But I think the transdermal is the best because you're not going through the liver.
Right. Right. That's what Dr.
That's where you have the increase of blood clots if you are at risk. But otherwise, it's estradiol. It's the stuff that we make in our bodies, and we are putting back a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, and it's
Mm.
bioidentical. And don't be afraid to ask your doctor to, even if you have to say and feel like you're begging, like, I would like you to give me this. Give me the lowest dose possible. I will report to you in 3 months. If it doesn't work out, we can stop. But I take the full responsibility. I need this for me. I have read that it works. There's tons of research behind it. The Menopause Society has come out and said the benefits outweigh the risk. And so for almost every woman, there's like almost zero contraindications to taking HRT when you take like the smallest dose. Maybe if you have a history of blood clots, but that's only with a pill. You can
Mhm.
still do transdermal. So even you can talk to a doctor who, like a cancer survivor, breast cancer survivors, everybody, they are actually okay to take it unless there's a severe case of whatever or some contraindication.
Mm.
Really, there is so much, and there's so much research now coming out. I know it's so recent, but there's been research that's been uncovered that they have done research in the past, but it just doesn't come to light. Only some things make it to
Mm.
light. So,
and what telehealth company did you use?
so in the beginning, I used the Winona,
Okay.
which
I've
is
heard of that.
wonderful. It was
Mhm.
great. And then I switched to now I'm doing Joy Wellness, Joy, Joy, because I'm also doing testosterone, and they're the only ones that do testosterone. For that, you need a blood test.
Okay. All right. So just so people have options, because a lot of people, when they go to their doctor, they're still going to get that answer. It's not safe. We're not doing it.
Yeah. So even no, you're definitely still going to come up against, pushback. And again, if you don't want to change doctors, you just have to push a little bit more. I would just recommend saying, I want this. There's research behind it. Do you need me to send it to you? But I would like to try it. It's low risk. So you need to push a little bit. If you still get no, then it's probably time to go out of network or pay to see a practitioner in person or telehealth, which is a wonderful choice now, which was a concept started by women because there was a gap.
Mhm.
And so what they've had to do is hire doctors and do questionnaires, and through that they are able to prescribe to you. I have my mom; she's 69. She's with Alloy. Alloy is it's another company. It's like Medi Alloy. There's lots of companies. She's with Alloy. They were wonderful. I got her. We signed up, and she was able to get very low dose estrogen. And my mom had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, all kinds of things. She had a surgery a year and a half ago in her head for a mass. They removed a mass. So all this, we talked to the telehealth doctor and everything. She's like, you can take the lowest dose. My mom has been climbing a small hill near her home that she has been living there for 3 years. She hasn't done it until she started taking estrogen and progesterone.
And you said she has
Fibromyalgia.
fibromyalgia, so it helped her pain?
Say it helped her. She couldn't, and this was happening to me. I couldn't put my feet down when I first got up in the morning, like putting your
Mhm.
feet down, like that pain, that
Mhm.
plantar pain. I was starting to get that. That's one of the first things to go as soon as I started estrogen. Yeah, because it's like oil and lube for our body. It
Mhm.
makes
Right.
sense that you start to like re-oil those joints and things just start to move more easily again. I don't know. It's magic, whatever it is. But it's like, so my mom, she wouldn't walk more than like maybe half a mile, once in a while. Now she's climbing a small hill. And I'm like, are you serious? She's like, I don't know if this is all it does for me. I'm so happy.
Wow. Amazing story, and at 69 too, that's really interesting. Okay.
69, and she's getting a lot of her life back.
That is fantastic. Thank you,
So on top of eating, like, I have her, like, I'm always
Yeah,
saying, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And she feels fantastic. She doesn't have the cravings, and she's 69. She's really good for her age.
wonderful. Well, being mindful of our time today, Myrna, what are two things that we can do today to age strong during perimenopause?
Ooh, well, the first thing is to absolutely get rid of those cravings that lead to so much trouble and, like, occupy our minds about what what's the next meal? What are we going to do? I need to eat this or I'm craving that. Balancing our blood sugar is the number one thing. So I would say for women, it's important to get rid of the added sugars in food. Try to stay as much as possible within your protein, fiber, hydration, good fats, good healthy fats. So cravings, that's the one thing because we want to minimize the amount of bad bacteria strains in our gut. And the
Okay.
bad ones are the ones that drive the cravings. And the other thing is get out and move your body because that's the other thing, right? When we're sedentary, the computer, the internet can rob our time and we're sedentary more than ever. That has been like, it's said that it is like the new smoking. It's like smoking a pack a day or something if we don't move. So get out there, grab a neighbor, grab your dog, your kids. It's also great for one-on-one time with people. So get out there and walk, get your steps in.
Yeah.
It's so true. I recently realized that I was not getting outside enough and not walking enough. So now I have 2 different walking partners. So if one is, like, bailing on me, I got another one, and so it's been working out really well.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
It's a great time to connect. You have connection with the one person or a couple of people. You catch up on the gossip, you do all the things, and you're walking, and now you with the vest, like it's becoming like everybody's getting a vest around here. So it's kind of exciting to see everyone doing that. And I'm like, it's catching on. That's great. Everybody's carrying their weighted vest, and we're like, oh, weighted vest club. It's pretty cool. So it's good. It's good to get out, and the weather's getting beautiful. And I think that's one of the best things to do to clear your mind, to really, even if you're talking to yourself, like sometimes I just pretend to be on my phone so people don't bother me. And I'm like talking to myself. I'm like, yeah, you get to thinking.
I love that.
So cut down on the sugar and get out and move your body.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I want everyone to know you can connect with Myrna on Instagram. Her handle is at Wellness by Myrna.
Thank you.
Great to be with you. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, curing, treating, or preventing any disease. We are functional medicine certified health coaches and not licensed medical professionals. The opinions and advice of guests are their own and also not considered to be medical advice. Always consult with a healthcare professional when making any healthy lifestyle changes. We would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment or review. Email us at info@functionalmoms.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button.